What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking after for the future. I'm going to break down some important things that happened during the shareholder meeting, and also what's going on with the overall market as I break down SPY and the QQQ and talk about the news that's coming out affecting the markets. Before I do anything like that, though, before I talk about what's happening with the markets and also for Tesla, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share. The offer ends in just about 14 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Tesla was up about 0.1% for the day. I made a prediction that Tesla could drop just a tiny bit in the morning, maybe around this like 163 area, and then try to bounce from there and close very flat. And that's very close to what happened. But what's important about this is we had this divergence that has been developing, and there's no guarantee it's done developing. I'm always open to the possibility of there being more downside, but I believe there's a good chance it will end up playing out. We might see Tesla bounce a bit. Not saying it's going to be a massive bounce, not saying Tesla's going to go to a crazy high level or anything like that, but I do think Tesla could bounce a couple of dollars, make its way back up to 170 to 172.5 tomorrow. If this divergence finally plays out and if Tesla gets a positive reaction after the things that Elon Musk said. Now, when did Elon Musk speak? He spoke at the shareholder meeting and gave us some important updates about Tesla, which I will break down in just a couple of minutes. However, despite Tesla's ability to do this, you have to remember that Tesla's heavily shorted right now. Lots of shorts piled in, and they will manipulate it and try to fight any upwards pressure. And on top of that, we have some news involving the debt ceiling that could lead to more fears. If the market does start to slow down tomorrow because of this later on, if the market does do that, we might see Tesla's bounce not last very long. It could just be a temporary bounce, just one push up before it starts to slow down. And I just want to warn you guys about this because of the debt ceiling and what just came out. So now to start us off, for tomorrow, for the whole market, we have some mortgage data coming out very early in the morning. Then we have some crude oil data that's going to come out 1 hour after the market opens. So for the first hour, there could be some volatility that's a little bit higher than usual because of this, but it's not too significant. Now, for Wednesday, we have Target reporting earnings alongside Jack in the Box and Wix, and then Cisco after the market closes. Nothing too huge. Then Thursday, we have Alibaba, Walmart, and Ross. Once again, nowhere near as huge as the earnings from like last weekend before that, but still worth noting. Now, when it comes to Joe Biden, something new has come out involving the debt ceiling fiasco. And excuse me, sorry guys. With Joe Biden, he ended up announcing that, in his opinion, he was very optimistic about lots of progress to be made involving the negotiations. He met up with Kevin McCarthy today. They did talk this out, but it looks like not a whole lot of progress was truly made. There's no like deal that's done, and I wouldn't really consider this a massive victory, at least for the American people. The debt ceiling deadline is approaching quicker and quicker. And as we get closer to it, fears involving a potential default or even like any other issues or implications could lead to more downside for the markets and more fears. Biden and McCarthy were not able to close any deal today, of course. I mean, I didn't really expect that to happen. As I told you guys before, events like this typically take a long time. So both sides of the political aisle just end up arguing it out and they just delay it over and over again until the last minute. That's what I'm expecting. It's likely about to happen again. But here's the big news. Joe Biden, tomorrow morning, he's supposed to be going to Asia, I believe in Japan, for the G7 summit. And when he goes there, he was supposed to travel to other parts of Asia. Unfortunately, he's not going to be going to different parts of Asia for too much longer. He's going to come back pretty quickly to the US after a couple of days to focus on the debt ceiling. And this caused the market to sell off at the end of the day and get this pretty significant rug pull. SPY dropped like almost $2 in just a matter of minutes. So did the QQQ. And what this tells us is that this whole debt ceiling is not an easy issue because other people are just, they're negotiating and they're requiring some very, very important and stringent I would say, limitations to what on earth Congress could do if they want to continue to raise the debt ceiling. If not, I mean, it's just leading to more delays, right? And this is why the market is starting to become more agitated because of it. Now, other people like Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer came out from both sides of the political aisle, and they're saying that some progress is being made. They could close the deal this week. So that is some good news, but overall, that does not change the fact that fears could still continue. Now, as far as SPY goes, I typically look at the options chain because it gives us a good understanding of what could play out. Looking at it, there's not too much going on for Wednesday and Thursday. There are very few options expiring on these days, and the put to call ratios are very flat. Max pain is at 412 though. But for Friday, we have millions of options expiring. We have a 405 max pain, and that does not guarantee anything. There are two possibilities for Friday that I'm seeing. Number one, the shorts could double down and fight very, very hard and try to keep the market down, very close to max pain, if not lower. Or what could happen is the market makers cause a short squeeze. I'm expecting a huge move on Friday. One of those two will most likely play out, but I just don't know just yet. We have to be very patient with this and see how the news develops. But please be very, very wary and very cautious. Now, let's talk about Elon Musk and what he just said involving Tesla for the shareholder meeting. During the meeting, Tesla had lots of voting that was going on for their executives, and they had their shareholders vote on the pays or the salaries of their executives. There were other things that were going on with changes to the company, such as more audits for their mines, the cobalt mining, and other things like that. That's all very important, but Musk did say even more important things for many investors. He said that Tesla is going to be working on two products. They're currently working on them, and he can't disclose too much about it just yet, but there are two products that I think you will be very excited about. That's what Elon Musk said. Uh, we did see more ideas coming out about their new product that they're still designing. So that's good too, but there wasn't too much about it involving the specifics or anything else. He did say that the design and manufacturing techniques would be head and shoulders above everything else. That's a good sign. And he just said that these are just guesses, so don't sue him. But he said they'll probably be able to make an excess of 5 million units a year of those two models combined. So that's some very, very good news if you think about it. That's just his guess, though. And Elon Musk talked about how the robotaxi is in development, and they do have lots of plans for a $25,000 car in the past. So there's a lot of work that's being done. Some people asked Elon Musk about making an EV RV or something like that. Musk said that it's not really on the table right now, but the Cybertruck could be converted into like an RV in a way. Now, on top of that, Elon Musk did talk about the future of Tesla, and he mentioned that he has some concerns about the next 12 months. This was a little bit more, I would say, bearish in a way, or maybe not the best of news for investors. What Musk said is that for the next 12 months, he recommended not looking too much at the stock market. You don't have to take that literally, but that's his point. He said that as time goes on, we're likely going to see some downside in a way for the markets. He implied that, but it's going to be very smart to buy the dip. He said, and I quote, I think you will be or you will not be sorry because there's an economic cycle to things. My guess is tough times for a year, but then Tesla will emerge stronger than ever. So he's saying there's going to be some downside, but Tesla will emerge stronger than ever. He says Tesla will try a little bit of advertising and see how it goes. And there's going to be continued perpetual growth going forward. All right. So those are some of the main things that Elon Musk said. I just read those from my phone. Looking at this, they're going to be third-party audits on the cobalt supply chain, and they're going to make sure that there are no children working over there. So that's very good, amazing, amazing stuff from Elon Musk. He said the economy will pick up after 12 months, but there's still more pain to come. He mentioned that, let's see right here, there are going to be long delays for many of their electric pickups. They're going to continue working very hard on their products despite many economic challenges. And he said that the Model Y is going to be the number one best selling car on earth this year. So lots of bullish things came out. I'm very, very excited about all of this. He said he's going to continue to work on the sidelines for Twitter, but it's not going to be taking up as much time as before for him because he now has a new CEO and he's going to be focusing a lot on Tesla. That was once again very good news for Tesla. And he continued to talk about Tesla's audits and working to create a better team going forward and continuing to grow. Looking forward, there wasn't a whole lot else that was said other than what I already mentioned, but Musk is still keeping his word about the recession, so please be ready for it. Now, as far as their inventory levels go, nothing really changed for the Model 3. We're still continuing to see a big backlog. And despite that, the inventory levels are still relatively high. For the Model Y, the inventory levels are dropping very, very hard, so that's a good thing. And that tells me that Elon Musk and the entire Tesla team are still making big progress overall. Earnings may be a little bit mixed because of this. There's clearly some issues with demand, at least for the entire economy. But the long term is still very bright, and I do believe that if Tesla gives us some big announcements, such as new models, or if they talk more about the Cybertruck, which Elon Musk mentioned today that they're going to be releasing it very, very soon. They're going to be delivering the Cybertruck super, super soon this year. That's a very bullish catalyst. Now, Tesla had very low volume. It held up on low volume, which is a good sign. Typically, when volume decreases, the price gets tighter and starts to chop around a lot more. Then we get this surge in volume, which leads to a very big move. And that's oftentimes what happens to Tesla after big events, and we could see that happen tomorrow. On top of that, the short volume is dropping. That's a good sign for Tesla. We're seeing less amount of shorting relative to the volume compared to before. So it's a little bit less on the short side. Wedbush reiterated that Tesla is going to outperform the markets. Tesla tends to be green about 48% of the time on Wednesdays, so they tend to be weekdays. But I'm hoping Tesla holds up. We do well during the fourth and fifth hours, and don't forget that May tends to be a good month for Tesla, about 54% of the time. And finally, the last short interest data that came out showed a big spike, but this likely dropped just a little bit over the last couple of days as the short volume dropped. This is just from a couple of days ago. I can't get the perfect daily data every single day. But for now, like I said, we have some good signs and good catalysts for Tesla. Now, the bad news for Tesla is the debt ceiling fiasco that's perpetuating right now. As it continues, fears may continue to emerge amongst investors, which could slow things down for Tesla. But the good news is Elon Musk said some very bullish things involving the new products, Tesla continuing to grow, and the Cybertruck. And on top of that, the chart is looking a little bit more bullish than bearish from a technical standpoint for the short term. I'm not talking about the long or even medium term for the next few months. I'm just talking about tomorrow specifically. As long as this low right here at 164 holds, Tesla has a bullish divergence developing on the MACD. You can see the MACD has been uptrending since this low right over here, which was developing yesterday. This was around like the pre-market yesterday. And then on top of that, we have right over here an RSI that's uptrending. So Tesla's RSI is getting higher and higher. Tesla's gaining some relative strength, and we might see it improve its price pairs ratio or its relative strength compared to the market, which tells me, okay, Tesla might try to bounce tomorrow. It might make an attempt to break 170. I think it's going to try to do so. It may even break it and hit 172.5. Now, it could just tag those levels somewhere between 170 and 172.5, but there's no guarantee it's going to last too much longer because the market is giving us some red flags, and it might slow Tesla down later on as the day goes on. So I'm anticipating Tesla pushes up in the morning and maybe it cools off as the time goes on. It's a very somewhat flat, maybe more green close. That's what I'm hoping for. And I say that because there are some fears involving the debt limit that are still concerning the markets. Now, if you look at SPY, I drew out this pennant for you guys. It's been stuck in this pennant for the last couple of trading days. Being stuck in the pennant, not a whole lot went on. But here's the problem. It broke below it, and it failed to get back above it for now. I believe tomorrow SPY is going to make an attempt to try to get back to this level, try to get back to the 411s, and try to hold it. It's going to try to do so. I don't know for sure if it's going to fail or not. It depends on the debt ceiling news, but it's looking not too great for it because it did break below and closed at that level, and we're still below it at the time I'm recording this. So it's going to attempt to, it's going to likely gap down. I'm sorry, it could try to gap up tomorrow. Sorry about that, guys. It might try to gap up and try to push into this pennant right here, but it might fail at the same time because now the bottom of it is going to become resistance. And if it does get a rejection, we might see SPY continue to sell off as the day goes on. But if it manages to break and hold this, then it could hold up, and that would be better for Tesla. Now, if it rejects and it starts, selling off, make sure you watch 410, then 409 flat. And then if those both fail, there's 408.87, then 408 flat on SPY. Those are levels to watch if it does reject off this pennant. I believe it's going to try to get back to this, but it might reject depending on the news. And overall, that's still not good for the bulls. Now, as far as the QQQ goes, this thing is once again not looking great for the bulls, in my opinion. Now, why am I saying this? For the short term, yes, it could hold up. It might try to hold up because of Tesla and Google. Could even pump more, right? The QQQ could try to hold up quite nicely. But here's the problem. Zoom out of the chart, and what do you see? A quadruple negative divergence on the 1 hour time frame. The MACD is trending down, the RSI is doing the same thing. On the daily chart, there's a triple negative divergence, which tells us, once again, right here, there's a triple negative divergence that has been developing and it's likely going to continue to develop. Now, what this means is we have a rising wedge on the QQQ. This thing is likely going to get rug pulled. Something's going to cause it. Maybe it's the debt ceiling. Maybe as we approach the limit or the deadline date, the market gets a big rug pull. Maybe it has to do with other stocks because today the QQQ would have closed red. It was up only 0.11%. It only closed green because of Google. Google held up very nicely, got some very good AI news. It held up very, very nicely, and that helped the QQQ big time. Finally, I just want to add that for now, we might see the QQQ just chop around within this range between this 325 to about 328 area. But if we get the break below support, if it breaks below 327, then the next major support is 325. If both of those fail, it's going to make its way all the way down to the low 320s. Then we have a lot of gaps in the 310s that could get filled. Okay, so all I'm saying is it's likely going to shop around even more. There's no guarantee it's going to hold up. And if it does end up breaking to the downside, we could see a very big rug pull that will affect Tesla. Tomorrow, I think Tesla's going to try to push up, try to hold up, and make an attempt to get this bounce. As long as 164 is the temporary bottom from this area, it is looking a little bit more like an accumulation is forming right here. So we could see Tesla make that attempt for at least 170, a break above it. But like I said, guys, I'm not promising it's going to last, right? Just because I say there could be a bounce, that does not guarantee it's going to last forever. It's not going to last for a very long period of time either, because the medium term for Tesla approaching June is still looking more bearish because of the QQQ. We could bounce, and even for like the really short term, even for tomorrow, later on during the day, Tesla could still start to downtrend too because of the debt ceiling. So, like I said, I'm not counting on this to be the biggest of bounces, the best of bounces ever. It could be a temporary bounce, and I just want to prepare you guys for that. So watch resistance at 170 and 172.5, followed by 174.5, and then there's all the way up to 177, which I don't think we're going to go that high, but I do believe Tesla's going to try to break above 170 at the very least. However, don't forget about support, because 164 is holding support. We also have 163, then 160 after that. Watch all of these levels just in case, but my best prediction would be an attempt to bounce in the morning, and then a rejection as time goes on. And Tesla still could close green, but it may slow down as the day continues. My prediction on Coinbase was some bearish price action. That is what Coinbase is doing right now. It's continuing to sell off, and I do see it approaching 56 and 54 very soon. Now, when it comes to SPY, the S&P 500, the futures, the indices, and etc., looking at the charts, things are still not looking that great because the dollar is starting to gain a lot more strength. The dollar is starting to break out. If the dollar keeps breaking out, the market's going to get a rug pull. Okay, the dollar is currently at 102.6. It's been pushing up. Its low was in the 100 flat area. Now it's in the 102s. If it keeps going, this is going to become bearish for the markets. And so far, it's showing lots of strength. The HYG is selling off again, which means the smart money or institutions are selling even more. What does that mean? There's this gap down here. If it breaks below 72, 73, then it's going to come all the way down to 72.66 or even 72 flat. Why does this have any significance? Because this could dictate the whole market, what the bonds traders are doing. Okay, and if this sells off more, right, smart money may start to sell, and it could lead to more downside for the markets. For Microsoft, there is technically a bearish divergence like pattern that is on the verge of developing on the RSI, not on the MACD. Actually, it is on the MACD technically. On the RSI, it's looking, it's forming too, but it's not as huge as the MACDs. What I'm seeing from Microsoft is this thing might chop around between 315 to 310. It might just continue to chop around for a little bit longer before we see a big amount of downside over the next couple of weeks. And I'm still holding what I said from before. When it comes to the S&P 500, looking at the VIX, there's a clear bullish divergence on the daily chart that has started to play out. Same thing on the weekly. There's a bullish divergence on the VIX, meaning the VIX might get a really nice bounce soon. If the VIX bounces, it starts pushing to the upside as we're about to get this PPO crossover. If that's the case, that could become very bearish for the markets. This could happen because of the markets turning bearish, and we're still getting those signals from the VIX. Does this have to play out today? Not necessarily. Does not mean the market has to crash immediately. The market may continue to chop around for some time, but for the next couple of weeks, by the June period, we're likely going to see some more downside. Another big red flag for the QQQ is the SQQQ. Okay, the SQQQ is continuing to drop. Yes, the QQQ, the Nasdaq, they could hold up for some more time. They could try to even push up a little bit. But look at the bigger move. The MECD and the RSI are forming very big bullish divergences on the SQQQ. This means this is kind of like the VIX and the S&P 500, comparing the SQQQ with the QQQ is kind of like that. This thing might get a breakout soon, okay? Over the next couple of weeks, it's likely going to get a breakout. Why? Because the QQQ and the NASDAQ are likely going to see some downside soon by the time we get to like June. Okay, and I'm warning you guys really, really, really in advance. I also want to warn you guys now because of the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling could lead to lots of volatility and lots of concerns in the markets as consumer sentiment is dropping, and that could lead to more fear. The fear and greed index is becoming more fearful. And looking at the Amazon chart right now, there's a bearish divergence that's developing on Amazon, a very clean one. If the top is in on Amazon, then we might start to see this thing slow down a bit. It's holding up quite nicely for now, so there's no clear sign of that just yet. Amazon has resistance at 115. If it breaks it, it could get closer to 118. But my best prediction would be this thing is likely in the topping process anyways, and it needs to cool off just a bit because it is very close to overbought territory on the shorter time frames. So we're likely going to see Amazon cool off to about 110 very soon and then continue from there. Nvidia has a clear bearish divergence that's still developing. One of the things I warned you guys is that Nvidia could try to push up a little bit, but it's likely going to see downside anyways. There's a bearish divergence on Nvidia right now, right? You guys can see it right here on the MECD and the RSI. I just don't know exactly where the top is going to be, and it's very dependent on the news. Could this thing try to make its way up to about 300? It's a possibility, right? It could still try to push up a little bit, but there's clear bearish signals developing on Nvidia, and it's going to get rug pulled eventually, okay? I know it's taking forever. I know this thing is very resilient, and that's fine, but it's likely going to get that rug pull and start filling a lot of these gaps over the next couple of weeks, maybe by the time we get to June or July. Very, very likely a big rug pull is coming for this. For now, it's holding up quite nicely. It's likely going to chop around this area between 300 and about this 292 zone. It could chop around a little bit, but if the market gets that rug pull because of the debt ceiling, then it might make its way down to about the 280s. But there's no sign of this thing getting a really big rug pull just yet. It's likely going to come in the future, but for now, it's still holding up all right. Apple has another bearish divergence that's starting to play out. It's starting to weaken on momentum. We have another indecision candle, closed exactly at 0.00%, very flat. In my opinion, excuse me, Apple might try to bounce a little bit in the morning, make its way up to about 172.5. And if it rejects off that area, we might start to see Apple downtrend even more and make its way down to 170 flat. It's losing momentum right now. You can see this on the MECD and also on the RSI. It's losing lots of momentum. It's starting to slow down. There's bearish divergences both on the MECD and the RSI. And then the PPO itself is showing the same thing. So in my opinion, Apple's looking more bearish for the medium term. For the short term, yes, it could shop around a bit. But for the medium term, I'm seeing potential downside, and I think it's going to make its way down to 170. And clearly, if the 170 fails, there's this giant gap down to the 160s, 165 area. Apple could fill that gap by June. Be very, very careful. Tomorrow, I think it's going to make an attempt to bounce, just a small bounce in the morning. And then depending on what happens with the whole debt ceiling, then we might see Apple just continue to chop and maybe even drop later on during the day. But that's what I'm seeing. For Google, it's relatively strong right now. I mean, could it keep going? Right now, there's no clear sign of it failing, but it is overbought, so I'd be careful because of that. Now, the odds are favoring it's going to make its way all the way back down to about 118, and it's likely going to start chopping a little bit. It is very overbought, and there is a potential divergence that could be developing here too. There's no clear sign it's ready yet, But I want to note that Google has some nice strength to it. It's outperforming relative to the market, but it is due for a slight pullback because of how overbought it is. So I could see this thing make its way down to 118. Before 118 comes, it could push a little bit with the market. It could try to get closer to like 125 first and then make its way down to 118. That's another possibility, but I'm not counting on there to be way more upside. Okay, I'd be very careful in a market like this. It is a bit overextended on the other time frames, so it also has these gaps below. Once again, just like with the rest of the market, there could be a rug pull by the time we get to June. For Meta, I anticipate a somewhat very flat day, if not a little red day, and that is what we got on Meta. It's only down about 0.02%, very flat. Meta is going to make its way down to the mid 130s, though. Looking at this chart, it could make an attempt to try to bounce here first before it continues to downtrend. Might get a very small bounce and retest like 141st and then come down. But either way, I see it getting very close to the mid 130s. Alibaba is very flat. I believe it has a potential bearish divergence that has been developing. It could cool off a little bit tomorrow, but we have earnings on Thursday. So make sure you're ready for that. Earnings will affect how this thing moves, and we could see a big surge in volatility because of that. 10-year Treasury yield is up. The 10-year Treasury yield, is up right now. That is a pretty decent sign. If it keeps pushing, that could hurt the markets too. That's what typically happens. It wasn't moving like normal, so I'm not as confident about this being a good signal, but it is worth mentioning because historically it does affect the markets. All right, guys, so what I'm seeing for tomorrow is an attempt of SPY to try to get back into its pennant. And if it fails, expect more downside. Expect this thing to get back to the 409s and 408s. If it fails to hold this pennant right over here, we're below it right now, so the bears have the edge. But I'm always open to anything because of the unpredictability within the markets. Okay, so expect us to try to push it up and get back into this wedge. And if we fail to do so, then, like I said, the bears will be in control, and this thing is going to get rug pulled to 409 and the 408s. For the QQQ, it may shop around, trade very sideways between 325 to about where we currently are, and that's what I'm seeing for tomorrow. But we could get the rug pull later on, so be open to that for the QQQ. As far as Tesla goes, I'm anticipating a bounce as long as 164 holds as the bottom. There is a bullish divergence right here, and Elon Musk did technically say some bullish things involving the share price. It may even like gap up tomorrow and try to make its way up to 170, if not 172.5. Around that area is where I think Tesla could go, but then Tesla could end up reversing if the market starts to slow down too. And that's what tends to happen because of the debt ceiling, because of fear perpetuating, and also because of how the market affects Tesla. All right, guys, so that's what I'm seeing for tomorrow. A bounce, not saying the bounce is going to last for all of tomorrow, but I still think Tesla could get a decent close because of it. And I would still be very cautious because of the medium-term sell signals that still exist for the markets in Tesla. All right, so thank you for listening. I have some merch for you guys if you're interested in buying any merch. If you want to buy a shirt that says "To the Moon" or any like hoodies, it's all available. And also don't forget about the Webull link. The offer ends very soon. Put in $100 and you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. Thank you. Tesla to the moon alongside the overall market because the long term is still incredibly bright. And peace out.